Hello, and welcome to another episode on the Everyday Joy podcast. This is episode number 127, and today we are talking about arrogance. It's going to be a good one today. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you to head on over to the Everyday Joy podcast community. There's a great post up there that expands on this idea further. And also, our group has grown. It's literally doubled since we launched the group. So it's just really exciting to see this new space really resonating with all the podcast listeners. So if you'd like to take this podcast further, also bump into some amazing people. I might be a little biased, but the Everyday Joy podcast listeners are such an encouraging bunch of people. You will love it. You can head on over and click the link in the description below. There are 2 questions to answer in order to be automatically accepted into the group. So if you answer those, you'll be good to go. Right now, though, let's get into today's Bible verse.
Arrogance will bring your downfall, but if you are humble, you will be respected. This is found in Proverbs chapter 29, verse 23 of the Good News Translation.
I've got the incredible Gig here in studio with me. Gig, for those of you who don't know too much about your life outside of the studio and recording the podcast, what sorts of things do you get up to in your 9 to 5?
I sort out other people's lives.
Like, you are a professional life organizer.
I am some people call me the life coach. But I basically, let's go back. I grew up with a mother who was a hoarder. So she was born 1938 in England. Bombs were starting to drop. So she was moved around. So anytime you had a little box of trinkets or something, you treasured it. So she collected and collected and collected over the years. When I was 15, I started to clean the house and clean it. When I was 18, I had a car and I started to move it out. So that's my job. I come into your home and I make your home your haven. So the place you want to spend time in, I help you sort through the cupboards, through the memories, through the tragedies, and help move them out, and just make your space where you want to, instead of, I have to go on a holiday because I can't stand being here, go home, relax.
Oh,
yeah, so
that's
important.
Huge. My goodness. We were moving recently, and we have so much stuff everywhere, but the amount of sentimental attachment you have. When we locked up the final place and we were, I looked up at Ari and I said, I'm really going to miss this place. And then boom, waterfall, just tears. Yep. And I was thinking, this is made out of bricks and wood, but
absolutely.
I am so attached. I've had so many memories here. You know, I remember that spot right there where I prayed and God answered a prayer. I remember that spot there where where I got ready for my wedding. And it's amazing how much
we hang on. And I say this to my clients. I say, if you drop dead tomorrow, all this is gone. Yeah. It's nothing. And I said, you need to move this stuff out so you can make room for new memories. Because if your life and your head is full, there can't be any new ones. And you're just opening opportunities.
Yeah. Well, got some free life advice there from Coach Gig. So today we are taking a look at Proverbs 29:23. Arrogance will bring your downfall, but if you are humble, you will be respected. My first impression of this verse is actually a little bit Lord of the Rings-ish. I kind of feel like this is something Gandalf would say. Arrogance will bring your downfall. I'm not going to do the rest of the thing.
That was so good.
Oh, not really. You should see Ari do it. He's like a professional. But it is something that I feel has that gravity.
Yep.
Like, it's kind of like the moment before the battle.
Yep.
It's like the final caution. It's like the wise sage imparting one last bit of advice. Arrogance will bring your downfall, but if you are humble, you will be respected. So I think that's my first impression. This just kind of seems like an epic, your life will make or break on this verse.
And it does. Absolutely does. This reminds me that arrogance and pride will steal your joy every single time. And it will lead to anger, frustration, and loneliness. And if you are humble or lowly in spirit, it opens up so many doors to life.
Yeah. What does this verse, Gig, tell you about what matters to God or who He is?
It really tells me that He wants us to lead a comfortable and joyous life. Because you know when there's things on your brain, it's not comfortable. When you're not holding on to things and not being arrogant, it's got to be my way or the highway, or this is a better way of doing it, or you're doing it wrong. If you just sit back, if you take the pressure off yourself, and it took me many years to do that, you actually invite joy in.
Yeah. It is really hard to be both high-strung controlling.
Yep. And joyous.
And joyous.
Doesn't work. They're like oil and water.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The good news, though, is that God can work with that. God can work with oil and water. He can help that.
Absolutely.
So how has this verse come alive in your life? It really is a cautionary tale kind of verse, but has that come alive in your life in any way?
A little story. I've talked about my parents before, great people, but together they were not great. Mum's now passed, and there was a lot of arrogance in that marriage. And so nothing ever flowed. There was brick wall after brick wall. And when you're constantly climbing brick walls to try and get your voice heard or your opinion across, you're exhausted very quickly. And we saw this with Mum and Dad. They were both so arrogant that it was the break of them. So, and finally, when Mum went into care at 81, it was like the arrogance dropped because they weren't battling anymore. It was a real eye-opener, and it was the best mum I had.
Wow.
I had nearly 3 years of my best mum, and I was the only person who would deal with Mum. No one else wanted a bar with her, which I think was an absolute gift.
Wow.
So in her time of actively dying, I'm sitting there washing and massaging my mum's feet, brushing her hair, and it was like dealing with a newborn baby. All the arrogance had left. It was special. It was a miracle.
Wow. And so you said that there was something obviously that shifted as a result of her letting down those walls, but she would have had to make an internal decision or change herself. Did you ever get to talk to her about any of the stuff, or why she was so different all of a sudden?
No. It was funny because I felt like just sit back and enjoy her. Her memory was going too, and I think to put that pressure on her, she was never going to admit, because I remember as a young adult going, Mum, well, hang on, you said this and you said that, and don't be silly, you're being ridiculous. I've never said that. I've never done that. So I thought, okay, she's never going to own what happened, and I know I don't have to love my parents, but I should honour them.
Yeah.
If there's a space where you can honour your parents where it hasn't been too bad, I mean, God doesn't expect us to honour parents that have abused us in such horrible ways. But I felt God saying, I know you don't love her, but you can honour her. And I think that honours God. So spending that time with Mum and just taking the pressure off and just loving her where she's at.
So I love how you said, Gig, in the last 3 years you got to experience the best mum you've ever had.
Yep.
That just shows the incredible impact it has on other people around you when you let your arrogance down. And I think that's something that, I mean, no one really goes out into the world saying, I'm going to be arrogant.
Yeah.
No one plans to live a life that way. And I don't think anyone who is arrogant realizes the damage it causes to all of those around.
Yeah.
So just a question here, and you may not know the answer to this, but how can someone who may not know that they're arrogant maybe look out for things in themselves that they actually need to check?
Yep. What I saw in my parents' arrogance, it was just their way of protecting themselves. Have a look. What am I protecting? What am I so pent up about in my life that I've got to... If you're butting heads constantly with someone, have a look. Say, God, what is this about? Is this me being arrogant? Do I need to drop it and stop, be still and listen? And I think that's what I saw in Mum and Dad. I didn't take their arrogance personally because I saw it was just a defence and it was a facade. But because I had God's eyes, I had the blinkers off, I could see their true hearts were just screaming out for attention.
Proverbs chapter 29 verse 3, arrogance will bring your downfall, but if you are humble, you will be respected. My goodness, we see this play out time and time again. You can see it a mile away in real life, in the movies, in so many different spheres of life. You can see that someone is headed towards a downfall because of their own arrogance. But, and here's where the application part comes in. If you know of someone in your world who is arrogant, my question to you today is this: what are they protecting themselves from? What is causing that arrogance? I think we sometimes forget that arrogance really is a self-defense mechanism. There's something that they are insecure about. And so they protect themselves with a wall of arrogance. So something you can think about and pray about today is, okay, what am I not seeing about this person? The second part of today's application is what Gig mentioned earlier about recognizing if this is something you yourself need to work on. And all I'm going to say is learning about yourself, learning your strengths and your weaknesses is tough. It's a tough journey to go on, to look into that mirror and stare at it long enough to recognize who you really are. It's a tough journey, but man, God can do some incredible things if you take the time to go on that journey with Him, to ask Him to show where your hurts and bruises are, where your walls are, and where you need to step into humility. Before we wrap up today's episode, an opportunity for you to provide sight-saving surgery to someone in a developing world for $33. And it only takes a few seconds. You can make this donation online and know that you have changed not only an individual's life, but most likely their entire family, perhaps even generations if they are a breadwinner. They can provide for their children in ways that maybe they can't right now because of their vision. So that's what you can do. The link is in the description below. Hey, I look forward to catching up again tomorrow and wrapping up the week with Gig right here on the Everyday Joy podcast.